Hi, y'all. Welcome to our first online reading here for the class Exegesis of the Book of Kings. We're going to be reading 1 Kings 22, verses 15 through 23. This time through, and maybe next time, and maybe the time after that, and so on, I'll give a little bit more in terms of hints for the Hebrew, and hopefully as the semester goes on, we will get a little bit more confidence about grammar and syntax and so on. So what you see here is my screen. This is just the desktop of my computer with a program here called Accordance. It's I use a Mac. I've used this program for quite some time. It's a good program. It's fairly expensive. I mean, all these programs are over $100, these kind of software programs. Unfortunately, the library is closed for the time being for BibleWorks, but I've posted a couple of resources that may be helpful, and I'll post another one that I think has parsing. And if anyone has any online resources that help for grammar and syntax of particular Hebrew passages, please just let me know, and I can post those as well. There's a BDB, an online Hebrew version of the Bible, for those of you who are stuck without your BDB or your BHS. So here is the Hebrew of 1 Kings 22, verse 15. This is my cursor. I think you can see it in the screen recording. So I'll start here, and I'll read, and I'll point out some things along the way. So as I always do when I look, I scan ahead in one of these verses, and I'll scan ahead for the accents. Here's the last accent of the verse, the saluk. So that's a big stop there. I'll also then look for the athnach, which looks like an upside down V, or what we might call a caret. That's right here in this verse. In accordance, it looks a little bit more like a wishbone. And then I'll look for a couple other disjunctive accents, in particular the zakef ketones. So here's a zakef ketone right here, which is the two dots here. Looks like a colon that is over top of the lamed here. And usually there's another zakef ketone. Usually there's two that divide up on either side of the athnach. There's not another one here, so I'll look for other disjunctive accents. This upside down segol, that's a disjunctive accent. This right here, this kind of diamond, this is a disjunctive accent. And then anything that points backwards, so this right here is a disjunctive accent. And I'll basically break up the phrase into these pieces. Here's another disjunctive accent here. This points backwards. I mean, just to remind us, an accent is anything that you don't recognize as a vowel. These kind of squiggles and dots and so on that are over and around the Hebrew letters. So let me start. Vayavo. Vayavo. That's my first word there. Got my vayiktol form. Vayavo. Underneath my performative, here's my third masculine, singular, and plural, third common plural performative or prefix for my imperfect. And underneath that, I have a long A-class vowel. Now remember, underneath your performatives, you look there for imperfects, and you try to see which vowel you have there. And the different vowels will tell you different things. They're in different stems. So usually, for a call, you'll have a hirek, or an I-class vowel. Usually for a PL, you will have a schwa, the two dots, right? And then at times, the hifel will be marked by a short A-class vowel. Here we have a long A-class vowel, right? Here's our komets, not our patak. Our patak is our short A-class vowel. And so this is a bit confusing for us. Now, the reason is this is a middle weak, vo, or bo, right? It has a middle vav. And remember, if you see a bait and you see an aleph hanging out together, you're usually looking at some form of the verb bo, to go or to enter. And here we have a middle weak verb that's in the imperfect form, and they take this long A-class vowel if they are in the imperfect call stem. So this is a call imperfect verb, and you'll see these, like, for example, kum is a middle weak verb that appears a lot, to get up, to stand up, and kum will also have this long A-class vowel underneath the performative in the call. So all to say, this is a common kind of form here. Vayavo, and he entered, and then El Hamelech. Remember, our subjects come after our verbs. Here's our verb, and then here's our we might expect our subject, but instead el, we have the preposition here, which would tell us that we're looking at an object. So, and he came. It's just the subject is not actually here, not visible here, so we have to assume it here. So, and he came, el, to Hamelech, the king, right? And he came to the king. Vayomer Hamelech elav. And he said, the king, and notice our accents are telling us this is together, so we would assume then that this is the subject. And the king said, elav, to him. So, and he came to the king, and the king said to him. Remember, we're in the middle of the story of Micaiah. So this is Micaiah ben Imlah, or Micaiah the son of Imlah, who is coming to talk to the king, the unnamed king, right? And then Micaiah, and this is the name, Micaiah. The Yahu at the end, right? That's Yahweh. And the me is who, and the ka is like. Who is like Yahu? Who is like Yahweh? That's this guy's name. So, and the king said to him, and then Kiyahu, Micaiah, when the king, so he had come to the king, he came to the king said to him, Micaiah, and then Nelech. This looks a little confusing, but remember, if you see a lamed and a kaf hanging out together, you might be looking at a form of the verb halak, to go. This first thing here is a ha, which might be a hiffle or something, but look at what's the vowel that's underneath your hey. That is the kind of vowel that we expect. It can be messed up by weak letters that come afterwards and so on, but this is what we expect if we are looking at a question word, right? So this is the interrogative hey, or the question asking hey. So ha nelech. Here's our verb halak. We shoved something on the front of it, this noon, which made the hey go away. The hey drops off, right? So ha nelech. The noon here, we would imagine, might be a nifal, or it could be, remember, if we're talking about the imperfect, it could be first common plural. Niktol. So, ha-nelech, question mark, we go. So you might think of this as should we go in the imperfect. This is a marker of the call, imperfect, first common plural, the noon. Should we go up El Ramot Gilead, to Ramot Gilead. La Milchama. La plus Milchama, to the battle. Im, which can mean if, it can also mean or. So here in this instance, we might imagine it says or, nech dal. So if we had a noon up here in this verb, nelech, which was a first common plural, call, we might imagine that this is also a call, imperfect, first common plural, this marker of the noon. So that means our root there is chadal, which you might want to look up in your BDBs. So shall we go up to Gilead, or shall we? And then this is maybe an interesting word to check out. Vayomer, and he said, elav, to him, ale. And if you look at that for a minute, try to remember your vocab. I know it feels like a million years ago, but this is from Allah, right? And this is our imperative form. Go up. We have a schwa here. It's a vocal schwa, composite schwa, but it's still a schwa here underneath our first radical of our root. That suggests to us that it's an imperative. Imperatives have these swallowed vowels at the beginning of the root. So, ale, go up. v'chatzlach, and then hatzalach. Our root here of our verb is tzalach, which means to prosper or do well. It's that verb that's found in Psalm 1, those who prosper. And then we have a hiffle. We have a hey here, ha, and ha. Nobody expects the hiffle imperative. So here we go. Go up and prosper and triumph and win. V'natan Yahweh b'yad hamelech. And Yahweh has given, this is Natan here, and this is just the call perfect, the typical call perfect. Now, the syntax here is a little bit interesting and confusing. Remember, we can have chains of verbs that mean things in certain orders and sequences. If you remember your Seau, in your Seau grammar, there's a chapter on imperatives. In that chapter, you'll find a little subsection on sequence, chains of imperatives. And so you can just link chains of imperatives together, imperative, 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 like you have here. But there's also some other meanings that you can create using these imperatives. One of them is if you break this sequence, here's a vav, and then a call perfect. This is suggesting a sort of conclusion to the sequence, or an outcome of the sequence. Some sort of result or purpose. So if we might think of this as go up and triumph or prosper, so that Yahweh might give, this is kind of, it's in the call perfect, but it's really in this chain of imperative, 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 vav plus call perfect, this creates this purpose clause, so that Yahweh will give into the hand of the king, so that the Lord will give, and then we just kind of presume victory or something like that, prospering, everything, the other army, whatever, into the hand of the king, the power of the king, so that Yahweh may give into the hand of the king. Okay, so there's verse 15, and we'll move on to verse 16. Boop, boop. Vayomer elav hamelech. So Vayomer, our same call, vav consecutive or preterite, or all those vayektol, all those different names, so the same thing. And the king said to him, and he said to him, the king, here's our zakef katon, so I'll stop there and translate that all together. And the king said to him, to Micaiah, this is the response when Micaiah says, yeah, go up, you're going to win, and God was going to give everything into your hand. And the king says to him, Ad kameh pa'amim. Ad, meaning like up to, how far, right? And then ka, from like ka, the like, or as, and then meh. What this person has done is jammed together the preposition ka and the question word ma, or what. So like what? As far as like what? And then that third word there, pa'amim. Pa'amim means a time or a step. It really means like a step. But it's a Hebrew idiom for asking, like talking about how many times do I have to do this? Like if you're kneading bread, you'd be like, how many times? You'd say, ad kama pa'amim. Until like what times? Steps. Until like what steps do I have to do this? Like until how long? How long do I have to do this? How many times do I do this? So, until how many times? Ani mash bi echa. And this word here, mash bi echa. You got too many letters. You can start taking things off. This cha at the end, that's you. That's the second person, right? Object, suffix. Second person pronoun. And then here we have three strong letters, and before that we have a ma. And remember, in the hiffle form, we have hiffle participles. That the participles for both PLs and hiffles start with a ma, right, or a meh. And it's the vowel underneath those participles that tells you what stem you're in. So remember, a call, active participle, doesn't have anything stuck on the beginning of it. It has that OA pattern, like hotel. The PL participle has a main with a schwa stuck on the front of it. And the HIFL participle has a main with a patak, a short A-class vowel stuck on it. So here, mash bi echa. So how many times am I making or causing, here's our HIFL form, causing you, and then here's our participle. We can translate it like a infinitive sometimes. I mean, to how many times must I cause you to, and then shavach, which is to swear. How many times must I cause you to swear? Asher, that, or which, whatever. Lo, tadaber, not you. This is an imperfect, right? And it's in the PL here. Davar as a verb occurs in the PL. So here's our PL imperfect performative, our tav, second person performative, and our schwa underneath, which is telling us it's a PL. How many times must I make you swear that you will not say a lie to me? This is el, like to, and then I, me. And then rak, only, or but, or if only, or only that. And then emet, truth, b'shem, in the name of Yahweh. So, how many times must I make you to swear that you will say to me nothing, not, except emet, in the name of Yahweh? Now, emet is translated as truth, but I have something to suggest to you here, and that's that it doesn't mean truth like we mean truth. And when I say we, I mean modern people, contemporary human beings who have different notions of truth, that is to say, different cultures that exist today. We have lots of different ways of talking about truth. None of our ways of talking about truth correspond exactly to the ancient way of talking about truth. You might want to look at emet and think about how emet works. Is something true in our, when we talk about the truth in the ancient world, in the ancient Near East, in Hebrew, ancient Israelite thought, does emet primarily mean intellectual validity? Truth like that? When I say 2 + 2 = 4, that's true. Is that what they're talking about? Or is there a different notion of truth? You might want to do a word study on this. A word study means just look for all the times that emet occurs, look at it in the BDB, look at the different possible translations of it, try to find out what it means here, and what sort of shades or nuances you might be able to find in other texts that might be able to help you look here. Now, if you do a word study, you might want to look at what are comparable texts. So other things in the Deuteronomistic history would be great things to compare, but other things that are kind of in similar ways, like the truth of God, or someone telling the truth. What does that mean in ancient Israelite thought? I think this goes along with the idea of lying. When we look at 1 Kings 22, we tend to think of it as a text that's really about lying and truth-telling. I think that lying means something very different in ancient Israelite than it means for us. That word sheker, which we'll get to, means something very different than we think it means. And emet, truth, means something very different in the ancient world than we think it means. So lying and truthfulness is, I think it ends up meaning something quite different in the ancient world than it would today. So let's try to think a bit in our dialogue and our conversation in the forums about what truth means here and what lying means here. So in any event, tell me nothing but this emet in the name of Yahweh. Vayomer ra'iti, and he said, ra'iti, I see, et Kol Yisrael. Remember, kol, this has got a makef here, which takes all the stress off of it. So now this is a closed, unaccented syllable, which means this is a kametz chatuf, an O. Whenever you see this kaf and lamed together, you're looking at kol. So it's not kal. Et kol Yisrael, all Israel. I see all Israel. Nefotzim, from... This is an eem ending. You might want to look at what kind of thing ends in an eem ending, like cherubim, right? That's our noun ending. But we might not be looking at a noun. We might be looking at a, like nephotim. Might be looking at a different form here. Maybe a participial form, a plural participle. And we might not be looking at a call. So nephotim. El ha-harim, like har, like mountain, and then im, the plural, and so the mountains, to the mountains. So I saw all Israel something. Maybe look up nafats, maybe look up futs, maybe, take a look at some other possibilities here, but try to find that word. It's an interesting one, and by the way, if you find this word here, nafats, you can maybe look in a concordance, try to find it in other places. The BDB will tell you where this word occurs. There's a couple different comparisons you can make here that might be really interesting. One to Genesis, chapters 10 and 11. But there might be even better comparisons, because if you think about this, we are reading the Deuteronomistic history. You might want to look for that word in Deuteronomy, which occurs in Deuteronomy 4 and Deuteronomy 28. It's an interesting word and concept. Okay, so in any event, katzon here, katzon, like a tzon, like sheep or a flock of sheep, asher, which ain, not lahem, to them, which there is not to them. Remember, possession in ancient Hebrew can be constructed with this lamed preposition. So there is not to them means they don't have. Who does not have? Ro'eh, a shepherd. Remember what shepherd can mean in the ancient world. It can be a potent symbol for leadership, kingship. Vayomer, Adonai or Yahweh. Lo Adonim La'ela. And Yahweh said, no Lord or master to these. Now this might sound really sad, except the end of the story here, and this little story that we're seeing that Micaiah is telling us about, actually has a happy ending here. Yashuvu, and they, remember this is a middle week, so we have that really crazy long A-class vowel underneath our performative for our middle week. Yashuvu, plural ending, so and they turned or returned. Yeah, turned or returned. We might think of this also as adjussive, perhaps, when we translate it. So let them go, let them return. So God is saying this, right? So either it's a command, or a statement of fact, they will return, or it's a adjussive, a statement of will, let them return. Ish leveto, a man to his house, le to, o his, beit house. Remember that in Hebrew, ish can mean a man, or it can mean each person, each one. So let them return, each to his house. That is all the soldiers. They get to return to their homes. Shalom, in peace. So, oh no, there's no shepherd to guide them. Yeah, except now they can all go home and have a nice day, right? Okay, so moving on. Verse 18. Vayomer melech Yisrael. And he said, the king of Israel. It's really interesting. We know the king of Israel's name, at least according to the flow of the narrative, but did you notice in chapter 22 that who is this king? Anyway, Vayomer melech Yisrael el Yehoshaphat. By the way, this is Jehoshaphat, right? This is somebody else from the narrative that we've read about earlier in chapter 22, right? Jehoshaphat, king of Judah. And just thinking about it here, Yeho, which is another name for Yahweh, so Yeho. Shaphat is a judge, or will judge, or has judged. Right, so Yahweh is the justice one. That's Jehoshaphat's name. So, and the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, lo, here's a question, did not amarti, did I not say, here's our call, Perfect. Did I not say elecha? Did I not say to you? Didn't I tell you? Oh man, I told you so. Lo yit nabe. Yit. Remember yit, mit, hit. This is our hit pael prefix, yit. And then we have our 3 letters of our root, nabe, which sounds a bit like navi, right? Yeah, this is the verb. Like navi means prophet, right? This is our verb, nave, which is often occurs in the hit pael. Didn't I tell you not to prophet? He would not this is a hymn, right? This is a third masculine singular. He would not prophesy upon me. This is the me here. Upon, and then I, upon me. Tov. Didn't I tell you he wouldn't prophesy good upon me? Ki-im, but rather ra, evil. Now, I've said this a few times in other classes and probably a few times in this one too, but Ra, thinking of Ra as evil is another thing that we need to kind of keep in thought here. Good and evil are to us abstract moral, philosophical, theological categories that exist independently of us. In the ancient world, they had much less refined philosophical categories. Instead of thinking of Ra as everything that is bad from a universal objective point of view, think of Ra as everything that's bad to you. And think of Tov as things that are good to you. So when Yahweh sends evil spirits, that might freak some of us out. But instead, if you think about it as spirits that are bad to you, that don't do things that you want them to do, like, for example, Saul, right? This story has some similarities to the story of Saul when Yahweh sends evil spirits to him. That might make us feel strange. But also, if you think spirits that are kind of not making him feel good, that makes a little bit more sense theologically to us, I think. But in any event, this along with the bigger question of truth and falseness, this question of good and evil is another question that we might want to think about and consider some this week. So, next, verse 19. Vayomer lachein shama davar Yahweh. And here's our Athnach, so I'll stop there. And he said, lachein, therefore, shama, listen, davar, the word of Yahweh. Therefore, listen to the word of Yahweh. So Micaiah is responding to, right, the king of Israel here, who has said to Joseph, see, I told you so. And he says, okay, fine. You want to hear the truth? Here's the truth. Therefore, thus, right, listen to the word of the Lord. So here is the real oracle, right? Ra'iti, I saw, et Yahweh yoshev, I saw Yahweh sitting. Here's our participle. Here's our active participle form. Al kiso, from kiseh, right, the throne, and then the throne of him. I saw Yahweh sitting on the throne. This might ring some bells as to other places where you hear this language in the Bible. Might want to compare those. Kol, here's our kol again. Looks like kal. That's not a kametz. It's a kametz chatuf. Oh. Kol tzava hashamayim. I saw Yahweh sitting on a throne, and all the tzava. Remember that word? You all remember what that means? The tzava. If you don't remember what it means, look it up. The tzava hashamayim omeid, standing. Here's our call participial form again, right? Standing, elav, upon him. I mean, really standing like in front of him to serve him. Mi no u mi samolo. These are word pairs. Yamin, so me, like this is like from, standing upon him, from, and like or on, his. And so we have the his, the third masculine singular object suffix at the end of both of these, and the meme in the beginning of both of these. So what's in between is the actual words. So yamin and samol. This is a word pair. They often go together. Yamin means right hand. Samol means left hand. Standing from his right hand and from his left hand. That is surrounding Yahweh. Is the this group. Vayomer Yahweh, and Yahweh said, me, which means who, right? Me, who. Ma means what? Me means who. Some of us are hearing these words a lot this week with our children around. Vayomer Yahweh, me, Fate, and this is a really important, crucial word here because it doesn't mean lie exactly. There's another word that sort of means lie later on, but again, it means something a bit different. This word right here is related to the word in Proverbs, petit, which doesn't really mean foolish in a way. You might want to look this one up. It's translated in the NRSV as what? Who will, what is this? Let's see, 20, entice. Who will entice? Boy, really interesting, strange translation, actually. I don't like that one at all. But I'm going to ask you all to dig a bit deeper into this word here, and maybe you can talk about that in the comments a bit. I've got my own ideas here, but let me help you tease these out a bit, and I'll jump into the forums too and give you my thoughts later on. But Yafate, who will entice, et Achav, Ahab, and here we actually get the name here of Ahab, who has been unnamed up to this point. Vaya'al, so that perhaps, who will entice Ahab so that he goes up? Vaya'al, and he will go up. Vayapol, and he will fall. From nafal, the noon curled up into a ball and jumped into this pay here because we added a prefix. We added our yod, which is our third masculine singular imperfect prefix. So that he may go up and he may jump. And by the way, this looks like a hiffle over here, v'ya'al. This is a first aleph, though. First alephs love, these gutturals. They like their strong vowels. They like their A-class vowels, and they will shove their A-class vowels into the prefixes. So first alephs will always take this short A-class vowel in their prefix, no matter what their stem is. Darn it, those weak verbs. So, who is going to entice? And by the way, you can look at this verb, entice, by the way, right here, or whatever you want to translate it as. I've got a different word. Yefate, and you can look underneath here. Your prefix here is, it's got a schwa for the vowel, right? That's a bit different than we expect from a call, for example, which would take a hirek. So this is telling us it's a PL, and we have a doubling of the middle radical too, so that's a good sign. It's showing us that this is a PL. So if you look up this word, look at what it does in the PL. Just an interesting question, right? They do these words do different things in different stems. Okay, so who will go up? Who will entice Ahab so that he will go up and he will fall? Ramot Gilead, at Ramot Gilead, or in Ramot Gilead. Vayomer, and he said, Zeh Bako v'zeh omer bako. And this one said with thus, and this one was saying with thus. This is an ancient Hebrew idiom, which is like, and this one was saying this one, and this was yada, yada, yada. They were talking, and they were kind of chatting with each other. So all the spirits start to kind of chat with each other, or whoever else is around this tzava. They all start to kind of chat with one another, right, about what to do. Vayetse haruach, and the ruach, yetse, layatza, right, which means like to come out, or to go out, and it has a strange vowel underneath its performative because it's a first yod. That first yod just kind of assimilates in here, but what it really does is it lengthens this vowel as a way of showing you that it exists, that first yod. So here, yetse, this is just a call. So it came out, the Spirit came out. Which Spirit? It's a really interesting one, right? It's the Spirit. Now, remember, ancient Israelites don't have a concept of the Holy Spirit, like there's one Holy Spirit that is part of a Trinity, right? Ancient Israelites just don't have that kind of theology. But it is really interesting here that this is a particular spirit that comes out as if we know this one. Vaya'amod, first ayin, first ayin here, which is going to force its A-class vowel underneath the performative before it. So this is just a call, imperfect, but sorry, you got a first ayin, so it's going to mess with your vowel there. So vaya'amod, and the Spirit came out and stood lifnei, before Yahweh. Vayomer, And it said, Ani afatenu. I, and remember when you have verbs, you don't need to say the pronoun, so the subject. So if you say it, you're really trying to be emphatic. So I, myself, and then here's that same verb, pata. It's got a third hey, so when we shove something on the end of it, it's going to change it. But then also we have an aleph stuck on the front, which is like I, right? This is our call imperfect. So I will, if you want to translate this as entice, but again, this is kind of an open question. I will do whatever this action is. I will entice. And then nu, when you see nu stuck onto a verb you don't know, this is basically who that has been messed with. A who, which is our third masculine singular object suffix. I will entice him. Vayomer, Yahweh, and Yahweh said, Elav, to him, Bama. What? Bama, like a high place? No, I mean this is a different Bama, not meaning high place. But if you break this down into its two constituent parts, ba, in, and ma, what? In what? In what is a particular Hebrew idiom for saying how. How are you going to do that? So you can look this up too and find other places that this word combination exists, and you can get a bit more nuance there. Okay, just a couple left. Vayomer eitzeh, and he said, I will go out. Right, so this is yatsa. Again, you lost your yod because it's a week of root, and it's a first week, and you shove something on the front of it. This is your call imperfect. First person marker here, so eitzeh, I will go out. V'chayiti. Here's your storytelling in the future. So remember, we start this verbal chain with a call imperfect, with an imperfect verb, and then if we want to keep telling a story in the future, we do like the reverse vayiktol, like the opposite of the vayiktol. Instead of doing vav and imperfect looking thing, which actually is telling a past story, we instead have a call imperfect here, and then we have a vav, and then we have a perfect. This is our future storytelling mode instead of backwards, or of a past storytelling mode. So I will go out, and I will be ruach sheker, a spirit of sheker. First thing first is that this is not a lying spirit. This is a spirit who says, I will go out and for a time be a spirit of sheker. Is sheker lie? I mean, I know the BDB says like deceit and so on. Look at how this occurs in other stories and other texts. This is a really interesting word because our simple modern conception of like a strict definition of like lying and telling the truth, I don't think that's what's necessarily at play here. Think about all of the ways that like Micaiah is kind of lying and telling the truth, and how the king wants these lies but also knows that they're lies and wants the real truth, but then doesn't want the truth. These are complicated in many ways by a couple of things. One is just the ancient sense of truth-telling and lying. Emet doesn't mean truth exactly, and sheker doesn't mean lie exactly, and patah definitely doesn't mean lie, that word that's entice or something. So figuring those out is going to be really interesting. But then also one other thing here is that prophecy is not just simply telling the truth about the future. In the ancient world, there's different ways that people did prophecy. If you look at chapter 22, verse 11, we see that Zedekiah, son of Cheniah, made for himself horns of iron, and he said, Thus says the Lord, with these you shall gore the Arameans until they're destroyed. The king is also sitting out in the threshing floor, right, by the entrance of the gate. It's really interesting. Why is the king's throne by the threshing floor? They're enacting the future. And these horns of iron are enacting the future. Sign acts, prophetic sign acts, were supposed to, if they were done properly and with God's consent, they were supposed to actually bring about the events that they were enacting, not just simply demonstrating that they were going to happen. The prophets actually did things that made these realities, which is why sometimes the kings say, please don't prophesy that, because actually enunciating it, articulating it would actually make it come true in a way. So think about that as part of this equation about what truth-telling is and what sheker is, what emet is, and what sheker, this deception, is, and so on. It isn't just saying what the king wants to hear or not saying what the king wants to hear. The king knows that speaking some of these things aloud actually makes them happen, but only in certain contexts, too. You can't just say anything and make it happen. So play with those ideas for a bit and see if you can see that in the forums. So, Bafi Kol Navi Av. in the mouth. I will be this like spirit of sheker, some sort of interesting concept, which is often treated as deception or lying. In the mouth, P means mouth, so in the mouth of all kol navi'av, his prophets. This is a plural, right? The plural would be navi'im, but we stuck a object suffix on the end here, so we've made it in the mouth of all of his prophets. It's in construct then to the object suffix. Vayomer te fateh. Here's that word again, patah, related to pati, a naive one from Proverbs. So, and God said, and he said, do the pati thing. Do that patah thing. Yeah. You go patah. V'gam tuchal. And also, you will succeed. This is a strange root, yakal. It's kind of like, you know how halak is a strange verb that drops the hay, or lakach, to seize or grab, is a kind of a funny word that'll lose that lamed sometimes. This one's a funny word, yakal, in that it always takes this, what looks like a middle, it looks like a passive verb. You get this like a shurek showing up in your verb, but it's not a passive. This is just how yakal always shows up, and it means like to be able to do something. And you will be able. So here this tav is the second person form, and then this is just the root. And you will be able. Say, there's the imperative here. Go out. Se, and do thus. It's imperatives, right? And do thus, and do that. Va'ata hine, and now behold, Natan Yahweh Ruach Sheker. So remember who's saying this. This is all part of a quotation from Micaiah. Micaiah is telling the story of what happened, right? So, and now, therefore, behold, right? And now behold, Yahweh has given, call perfect, Yahweh has given, put a Sheker spirit in the mouth of all of your prophets. Bafi kol navi echa. Ela, these. All of these your prophets. Vayahweh diber alecha ra'ah. The Lord. And you can actually even see this has a zakef katon on top of it. It's like the Lord himself, right? Or God's self, right? This is kind of like emphatic. Diver has spoken upon you, alecha ra'ah. Evil, but is it evil? This is another interesting thing for us to talk about. There's plenty of other interesting things to talk about here. I'll stop this recording for now. Jump in the comments, in the forums with questions and comments and so on. And like I said, if you want a Zoom conversation once a week, I'm happy to host something like that. I also don't want to overload you, make you all feel like you're missing out if you don't do that. So if you all are already way overloaded, just let me know. And but I mean, I really miss y'all, and I wish we could have conversations together. So if that would help some folks, maybe we can do that too. All right, see y'all soon.